What is going on, everybody, man? King Recon here, and I've been in a heavy Tokyo Ghoul mood as of late, man. I just finished rereading up until chapter 101. I was doing that this past weekend. I had a blast rereading a lot of the Tokyo Ghoul re-awesome sauce. But with school year coming to an end soon, and with Tokyo Ghoul Re about to release its sixth episode, I thought I would talk about my experience with the anime and why I love the anime so much. And that is based off of its amazing OST. You know, guys, and a lot of you know this story if you were here and you were a part of the old channel. But back on the old channel, man, whenever I first watched Tokyo Ghoul, I did not like it, man. Not in the slightest. I'm talking about. I had the same thing with Tokyo Ghoul that I had with Attack on Titan. It was Seraph of the End, where after the first episode, I said I don't want anything to do with this. And for Tokyo Ghoul, it took me quite some time, man, quite some time in order for me to get back into it. But I'll get to that story in a sec. Um, it's actually pretty funny because whenever I first watched Tokyo Ghoul, I made a review for it here on the channel and triggered a lot of people because I made a 1 minute video and I placed the camera outside of my bathroom and I went in there, I took a dump, I flushed the toilet and I came back out and I picked up the camera and that was the review I did for Tokyo Ghoul episode 1, man. Like that's because that's how I felt about it whenever I first watched the series. But as I always say about any series, especially after experience after the giving Tokugul a second chance, it's always good to, or I should say, if you don't like a series at first, maybe it wasn't the right time for you to watch it. Because I'll tell you what, man, whenever my friend, my boy Josh, we were in the, I believe it was a school library. Well, we have this place called the TLCC. It's not really the library, so it's the library, but it's the testing center, and there's a bunch of computers in there. And he was in there. He was like, "Yo, man, I want to show you something real fast." And he showed me the entirety of episode 12. And what got me with this entire episode, what had me so immersed, wasn't the amazing visuals. It wasn't the greatness that was unfolding before my eyes in terms of, the amazing Kaneki and Jason stuff. Like I said before, with the imagery with Rize and Kaneki. What got me was the phenomenal music, man. I remember the first time I heard Unravel playing throughout that entire final scene. I was just so into, and even before that, man, with all the other soundtracks that were playing, I was like, "Yo, is this really the same series that I watched back?" And I think this was like 8 months later, after I dropped it. So after he showed me that, I had that little episode that, if you guys remember, I had to take around 3 weeks off from the channel because I had a little attack that happened, and it was some bad stuff, yo. Like with the heart and my nervous system, it was some crazy stuff that was going down. That was in late 2014, and during that time period, I wasn't able to do pretty much anything. So I took that time after watching episode 12 with Josh, and I came back and I watched the entirety of the original anime, and it was one of the most awesome experiences. Because then, right after I finished that, I went back. I asked my friend, my boy Josh, where do I continue off from here? And he showed me the manga, and I read all the way from, I believe it was like chapter 62 all the way up until where they were at the time, which was literally chapter like 3 of Tokyo Re, and I read through all of that, man, and it was such an awesome experience because it just showed me a couple things. It showed me, number one, never judge a series off of its first episode. Number two, if you don't like the first episode of a series, maybe it wasn't the right time for you to watch it, man. Because I'll tell you what, whenever I went back and I watched it, and I remember coming back, my first video. Now, this is some awesome little nostalgia for you guys that have been around for that long. But do y'all remember whenever I came back from that long 3 week hiatus, and the very first video that I made was a 1 minute long video. I was sitting in my room and I was talking to somebody on the phone, and whenever I got off the phone, I think like I ended it off like, "Wait a minute, who is this? Who am I talking to?" And then I put the phone down. I looked at the camera and I smiled, and Unravel started playing. And I remember a lot of you in the comment section, you guys were like, "Oh, you guys, Omar, you finally converted into the greatness. Like, Omar finally got into the awesome sauce. Like, he's no longer a hater of Tokyo Ghoul." And I was over here like marking out, and I made a video. I think it was after that, explaining the whole story and like how I got into it again, and catching up to the manga. Like I made a long I caught up to the manga type of video, just expressing how much I loved Sui Ishida's work. But all of that was based off of the OST, man. Like I probably would have never gotten back into Tokyo Ghoul had it not been for the OSTs, man. Whenever I watched episode 12 in that TLCC session with my boy Josh, and the crazy thing about that episode 12 watch was that there was so many people around us, and the library was so loud. Like, and whenever you're watching anime out in public, man, and like you're watching something that because the thing is with Tokyo Ghoul and its imagery is that it's like watching something like Ava in public. It's not something that you're ashamed of per se, but it's something like you would like look around to see if like anybody's watching, especially if you're watching something like like Evangelion episode, and it's just a natural human instinct. So, but when it came to Tokyo Ghoul, it was another one of those moments where I was so immersed, I didn't even care. Like I was like, yo, man, this is flipping amazing, dog. Like, yo, like, what have I been missing out on this entire time? Or just because I was foolish and I decided to drop a series at episode one? But the OSTs for Tokyo Ghoul, man, are I mean they're on a league of their own, man. And I'm including Rude A's OST into this. Tokyo Ghoul's OST has helped me through so much, man, in college, man. Like throughout my study sessions, whenever I've had a bad day and I just sit down and I listen to the OSTs. I don't even have to read the manga, watch the anime, or do anything. I just have to listen to the OSTs, and it automatically brings me into a better place, man. Like I apologize if I mess up the name, but Leaked and Shotten, the that song. If you search it up on YouTube, it's by there's a person named Pandora Heaven who did it. Leaked and Shotten. That soundtrack to me is phenomenal, yo. Every time that I hear that soundtrack, I remember that initial experience that I had at the end of 2014 when I first caught it back up to Tokyo Ghoul. That is my Tokyo Ghoul OST. Aside from Unravel, that is the Tokyo Ghoul OST for me. I love that soundtrack, man. And then, of course, Glassy Sky for Rude, man. I remember when I first did my Tokyo Ghoul Rude episode 1 review, or I think it was episode 1 or episode 2 that had a Glassy Sky playing for the first time. I marked off for a good 5 minutes talking about how good that song was, man. On My Own is a phenomenal soundtrack. Uh, any version of Unravel in any language. I can listen to Unravel in any language, man. Japanese, English, Spanish. I don't care. Unravel's goaded in any language. There's actually this one English cover done by a channel called Kill Me. Dude, that OST has helped me through so many writing sessions. Like I love Tokyo Ghoul is one of those OSTs. Like Tokyo Ghoul, Hunter x Hunter, have like those OSTs that in Death Note, One Piece, Cowboy Bebop, like these series have like really awesome OSTs to write to. And Tokyo Ghoul, especially when it comes to like Glassy Sky, Legend Satan, and Unravel the English version. Unravel the English version actually is the main OST that I have in my head whenever I think of this one particular scene that I can't wait to write later on down the line. Like I remember it was one day I was driving on, or no, I wasn't even driving. I was on the bus. That was back whenever I was still on the bus on the way to to class because it was a long commute and there was no way in flying flag darts that I was wasting that much gas. But now I do because I just don't care. But back then, I used to take the bus down there, and whenever I would take the bus, I would have these OSTs with me and listen to them on the bus, and I would just think about my story and thinking about what I was gonna write whenever I got there, because I would have like around an hour to do like whatever it is that I wanted before class started, and I would listen to that Unravel, to the English version of Unravel, man. And there's this one particular scene that it stuck with me because I thought about it when I was on the bus, man, and I was like, yo, I have to write that, man. I have to write it now. Every single time I think about that scene, anytime I think about anything even relating to that scene, I always think of Unravel now. And it's definitely inspired by the song. It's a song that really gets you moving, man. Like it's one of those songs that not only does it get you crunk, because honestly it is a song that you can blast in the car, yo. Like I blasted Unravel in the car before. I can't lie to y'all, yo. I've definitely blasted Unravel in the car. But Unravel is one of those songs that truly is inspiring from a writing standpoint, man. It fits so many emotions. It gets you in terms of whenever you're feeling sad, whenever you're feeling angry, whenever you're feeling happy, whenever you're feeling um, rage, whatever the case may be, man. It just fits so many different emotions, and that's why I think that song is so amazing. And that English version, whenever it ends off, and don't forget me, please don't forget me. I mean, it goes in, man. It really does. But the English version of that song really did inspire me from a writing standpoint. And then we have Nine. Nine is another really good Tokugul OST, and the ending theme from Rude. The ending theme from Rude is honestly from a song standpoint, it's up there with like some of the best for me. I have There's a lot of endings in anime that I love for their songs, like just simply their songs, not even just their visuals. And I love the endings visuals, but the the song is just I can listen to that thing all day, man. It is a really dope song. But yeah, man, like even like aside from this from those OSTs, I have those OSTs like in a special playlist on my on well I had them in a special playlist on my old YouTube channel, but now on this channel I mean I had more on the old YouTube channel. Now I only have those. But yeah, man, Tokugul's OSTs have always been such a special thing for me in this series. Like it always reminds me back to the initial catch up experience, and that's why ever since Tokyo Ghoul, I've always given series a second chance. I still need to give Surf of the End a second chance because Surf of the End, I still dropped it after the first episode. I said I don't want to deal with this garbage. But I mean, look at Attack on Titan, man. Attack on Titan, I gave him a second chance, and I had a blast watching season two weekly. Season two weekly was such a fun weekly experience, and it's crazy to me now looking back and thinking of my life without Tokugul, right? Because Tokugul has helped me so much from a standpoint of like inspiration in terms of writing and in terms of doing content that I don't know where I'd be without the series because it changed my outlook on giving other things a second chance. Dokugo was the first series because you guys know me, man. I'm not that much of a negative person. I don't, and at least when it comes to anime, like I don't really drop a lot of stuff. I like in order for me to drop something, I really have to have no interest in it, man. But it's incredible to me the story of how I went from dropping Tokyo Ghoul for it to legitimately being one of my favorite mangas ever, and combining the original and read like the entire story of Ken Kaneki. It's a very beautiful story for me, and I'm attached to so many of the characters, man, like Toga and Eto, and it's my girl Psycho, yo, the greatness. You got the clowns, man, and it sucks, man, because you look back on it and you're like, you know what, I do regret go back, or I do regret dropping it initially. But at the end of the day, if I would have loved it back then when I watched it, it was like June or July or August or whenever the hell the Tokyo anime started that year. If I would have liked it back then, I probably wouldn't have had the same catch up experience that I had. But it's because I had that catch up experience that I'm here today making this very video, because it was a catch up experience that really stuck with me. It's a series that I didn't like, and then I came out of it absolutely loving it to the point to where it was the very first thing that I talked. It was the very first two videos that I made whenever I came back from that 3 week hiatus, my first ever hiatus on the channel. I came back and I made two Tokyo Ghoul videos. I guarantee you the audience was shook. Like I thought this guy was Tokyo Ghoul hater. Hey man, I was, yo. But it's always good to give things a second chance. And yeah, man, I wanted to share that with y'all because I've been having a blast just going back and rereading the manga. I'm having a blast watching the anime on a weekly basis, and yeah, man, I need to catch back up to the manga. I'm behind like a couple chapters, but at this point in time, I'm just enjoying the journey, man. I love messing with Sui Ishida on Twitter, but he truly is one of the goats to me, man. From in terms of his writing, in terms of his writing style, and in terms of his art style, Sui Ishida is definitely one of the most inspirational mangaka for me as a writer, man. Have taken a lot of inspiration from his character writing and from his story writing. He has a I'm not gonna say it's a very unconventional way of writing stories, but it's a very it's not even I don't even want to say it's unique. It's just maybe it's because of the way that he does it. That's why I go back to saying like his style of writing, because it's something that I've seen before in terms of like the way that he writes a story, but it's his style that just makes it so special to me, man. I guess it is the combination of the art and the story that really gets to me. But the way that he writes his story is so cool to me, man. going back to the initial beginning, he tells you straight up, yo, this isn't gonna be a happy story. And even though he says that, there's so many hilarious and comedic moments, and that's the one thing that at first I didn't like about Tokyo Ghoul, because one of my favorite things about anime and manga is the comedy, and I thought it was gonna be nothing but serious, edgy stuff after coming out of Tokyo. That's why I didn't like episode one. But as I watched the anime and as I read the manga, it still was showing lighthearted, comedic, fun moments that really make you love the characters. Like the chapter that I just reread in chapter 100, that was a hilarious chapter, but it was so emotional because of the impact that all of that had. That chapter was legit 100 chapters in the making. And it was just so cool having them all together. I'm not going to spoil it just in case you're anime only, but if you're an anime only for Tokyo Ghoul, man, you have a lot of greatness incoming. I hope that Studio Prairie does a lot of this awesome sauce some justice, because some of the greatness that you're about to see is arguably some of my favorite stuff in the entire series. With the Rosenwall, the greatness, with the Rue Island awesome sauce, like that's gonna be really cool to see in the anime, and I hope they do a lot of it justice. Shout out to Reaper, yo. Shout out to the Reaper. But yeah, man, I just wanted to share that with y'all. Talk about some Tokyo Ghoul greatness. I've been in the mood to talk about it, man. Another character, but before I end this, arguably my favorite character in Tokyo Ghoul, because I still think that in terms of from a main character standpoint, Kaneki is just, he's out of this world. I absolutely love the way that Ishida has written his character, and it's hard for me to not pick a character that well written as my favorite. But there's two characters that I have over Kaneki, at least at this point in time, and that is Furuta and Eto. Eto's my favorite. And the thing with Furuta, obviously, he's a troll. I love my trollish characters. Any character who's a troll like Furuta I'm gonna automatically fall in love with that character, especially if they have godly dialogue. But Eto to me is whenever I look at Eto, I see a lot of myself in her. I see a lot of myself in her because, or I don't. I do see a lot of myself, but I also see a lot of what I would love to write in a character like her, because she is arguably the strongest school in this series. She's the leader of this organization that nobody knows about. Or she's the leader of this organization, or she's the leader of this organization that people know about, but nobody knows that it's her. Nobody knows that it's Takatsuki Sen. And it's so dope to me that she's living this double life as the most popular author in the world, and she's also like one of the biggest underground, like she is the underground boss of the world when it comes to the ghouls. And her story, going back to the stuff with Yoshimura and everything that goes down in Re, and the quotes, man, some of the quotes that she has, yo, and I don't know, man, from author to author, I can really connect with Takatsuki Sen, man. I really can. I love whenever Kaneki states that he doesn't like her books because they always end in a tragedy. They always end in a main character dying, and like, obviously, if you look at the way that her story has been, and the way that her character is, and her backstory, of course you would write tragedies, man. She's had an insanely depressing and sad backstory, and she still smiles. And that's what I love so much about Eto, yo. It's like, we know how, messed up she is in the head because of everything that's happened. But at the end of the day, like, all of us are that messed up in the head to a certain extent. And she uses that as a tool in order to further her writing progress. Like, she uses her depression, she uses her anger, she uses her emotion in order to write these phenomenal stories. And I can relate to that so much, man. I can relate to that so much, for, like I said, from author to author. And I love this one particular color page. I believe it's from chapter 116 of the original series. My boy, shout out to Black Reaper, Sen Eto in the Discord. Send me a pic of Eto writing in her room, and that's my current lock screen on my phone. It's just, like I said before, I see so much of myself in Eto, and from the very moment that I found out that she was the author of all the books that Kaneki loves, and seeing that all that mess going down, and it was such a cool concept to me that I said, man, I would love to write a character like that one day. And it was like another one of those things to where I just told myself, Suishida's amazing at what he does, and he's one of those mangaka like Togashi, like Oda, like Urasawa, that whenever I read their works, it makes me want to pick up a pen, pick up a pencil, get on the computer, and just write some awesome sauce because they're that good at what they do. Sui Ishida, I compare him to Hideaki Anno in the way that he choreographs and puts together his manga. A lot of those chapters, like for example, chapter 143, it's not well, like for that entire arc going down there. Not even just that arc, like going back throughout his entire story. I love the choices that he does in terms of his camera work in his manga, having these particular angles that just look so cool and yet so. I think the reason why they look so cool is because of his art style. You know, we see a lot of these same angles in other manga, but with his art style fits the theme and what's going down and like the tone of the manga so well at times. Like especially in Re, man. In the original, because his artwork has come so far, I feel like in the original it definitely had like a much darker feel to it because there was a lot of those there's more squiggly lines back then than there was now. But now, man, it just fits so well because it's a great mixture of lighthearted and that dark tone to it, man. And I love his art style. I really do. But yeah, man, some of his choices when it comes to the way that he decides to, pan out some of these panels and the structure of how he does things, it's really cool for me to, as a person that doesn't necessarily like draw comics or draw just in general, but I read a lot of comics. I read a lot of manga, both. Or I should say, yeah, just in general, I read a lot of comics, and Sui Ishida's work pops out to me because it feels like I'm watching an episode whenever I'm reading some of his works, man. And even though there's a lot of dialogue, I feel like the art sometimes speaks more than his dialogue does, and his dialogue is phenomenal. But I feel like that's just how good he is. Look at one of his chapters as of late, where it had no dialogue whatsoever except for like what was it, like one panel of dialogue, and yet action spoke louder than words. And still for me, I think that was my favorite chapter of last year, just because of that. Not only from an emotional standpoint, not only from a story standpoint, but just how he decided to draw that chapter. Just great. Like I would say, like if he was a director, like if I could compare him to any director in in the anime industry, he'd be like Hideaki Anno, and I could definitely see Sui Ishida working like at one of the heads at Gainax and like doing some really good stuff over there. That's what his stories remind me of. Maybe that's why I like his stuff so much because it reminds me of a Gainax story. It reminds me of like a Evangelion. It reminds me of Fule Coolie. But yeah, man, Sui Ishida, keep up the awesome sauce, man. I'm definitely gonna be here for to continue the greatness. I wanted to come on here and talk about Tokyo Ghoul, yo. I feel like it was a video that I really needed to make on this channel because now I'm officially talking about the manga and whatnot. Back in the old channel, I mainly talked about the anime. I didn't really cover the manga as much because I feel like the manga was more of a personal experience for me, just like the same way I feel about with Berserk. It's one of those personal experiences that I'd rather keep to myself and just tweet about it whenever I feel like really appreciating this work. But I really want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come on here and talk about Tokyo Ghoul, even though I'm not as knowledgeable as other individuals out there, or my knowledge for the story is, I really haven't much. I'm not one of those guys going to go on a forum and give you like the greatest theory of all time when it comes to Tokyo Ghoul. So I really do appreciate you guys for giving me the opportunity to come on here and talk about this series because it is a series I care a lot about, and if can ever create something as great as Tokyo Ghoul, it'll definitely be an awesome accomplishment, man. So shout out to Sui Ishida for creating a story that made a hater into a lover, made it into one of my favorites, and shout out to the anime for giving me some phenomenal OSTs that I'll never forget and that I'll continue to listen to, on a daily basis. It's one of those amazing OSTs, man. But thank you all so much for watching, yo. I hope you all have an awesome day. I don't know when I'm gonna do the Tokyo Ghoul manga reaction, but it'll come eventually, man. It'll come eventually. Hope you all have a blessed day. Have an awesome sauce of a day, and continue loving the greatness of Sui Ishida's works, bro.